Well, obviously the best known claimant is Prince Harry, but it's a pretty good lineup of A-listers who are bringing this case against the Mail newspapers, including Elton John, his husband David Furnish. You've got the actresses Liz Hurley and Sadie Frost, and perhaps possibly least known in Australia, but in my view, the most explosive is Doreen Lawrence, Baroness Lawrence, who is the mother of the murdered teenager Stephen Lawrence, for whom the Mail ironically campaigned for many years to bring his murderers to justice. And she is the one who perhaps has come out as the most aggrieved in terms of the allegations that are being made.
We'll go into more detail as to what those allegations entail. Claimants were not required to attend the 4-day preliminary hearing, but Prince Harry made a surprise appearance. How significant is this, and what did he have to say?
Yeah, Prince Harry, it seems like he actually flew over, especially for this trial. And you're absolutely right that none of the claimants were obliged to appear. These were quite technical legal arguments, but in fact, on the first day, they all did, every single one of them. That was probably a concerted effort to demonstrate that they wanted to make sure these claims were given publicity. That this wasn't going to be brushed under the carpet, and that the UK and the rest of the world were going to hear the nature of the claims being made.
So what did some of the witness statements from claimants such as Elton John say?
Okay, well, I think it's important to say that the original allegations related specifically to allegations of listening in to messages. That's what the phone hacking claims were all about, and they are still in the process of being settled. These claims go a lot further than that. We're talking about not just phone hacking, i.e. listening to messages, but phone tapping, i.e. listening to live conversations. There are allegations that that cars were bugged, that police officers were bribed, that there were unlawful payments to police officers, and that homes were burgled. And perhaps most damagingly, that confidential medical and financial records were illegally accessed or blagged, as it's known in the trade, by private investigators, either pretending to be the claimant or pretending to act on their behalf. So these are really, really serious allegations.
One claimant who has really brought attention to the case, as you have said, is Doreen Lawrence, the mother of murdered teenager Stephen Lawrence. What can you tell us about her arguments?
Well, her arguments are that she says that she was followed, that her movements were monitored, that her bank accounts and other confidential records were monitored over a period of getting on for 20 years, while the Mail was purporting to act on her behalf and on behalf of the justice. She says she now sees that the Daily Mail's true interests were about self-promotion, and using her and her son's murder as a means to generate exclusive headlines, sell newspapers, and to profit. She says she feels she's let down her son. So despite the A-list quality of her fellow claimants, her claims are probably the most damaging in terms of the Mail's reputation. It's important to say throughout this, of course, that the Mail vigorously deny any of these allegations.
Well, that's right. Associated Newspapers is seeking to have the cases thrown out on the basis that the allegations, which date over a 25-year period, as I understand it, were brought too late. Is that correct?
That's right. Yeah, their argument. Well, they have two arguments. The first is that the case is what they call stale, that the claimant should have known before now that they had claims, and that they are at least 6 years old and really should be thrown out because they're out of date. Their other argument is that they are relying on confidential documents which Associated Newspapers, the publisher of the Mail newspapers, gave to the Leveson Inquiry in 2011, and they have no right to use that documentation, those confidential documents.
Well, the case brings back memories of the Leveson Inquiry into the culture, practices and ethics of the British press. Remind us again what resulted from that in the end.
Well, there were originally two parts to that. It was discovered that the News of the World, which has since closed down, Rupert Murdoch's Sunday newspaper over here, hacked the voicemails of the murdered schoolgirl Millie Dowler. That then, the horror that followed those revelations resulted in the Leveson Inquiry being set up. And it had two parts. The first was to come up with some ideas for independent regulation of the press, which the news publishers over here have managed to circle round and sideline over the last 10 years. But there was a second part of it, which was actually to look at the sort of who did what, and to bring to account the very senior people in editorial positions who sanctioned the unlawful activity. That never happened after a huge amount of lobbying by these very large press corporations. The government was persuaded to drop the second part of that Leveson Inquiry. And there are real questions now as to whether we should resuscitate that second part of the Leveson Inquiry, because there is clearly unfinished business here.
Well, turning our attention back to the current case, what happens next?
Well, the case will finish either the legal pleadings will finish either today or tomorrow. After that, I don't think we're going to hear the judge deciding straight away. He will take it away. He will think about the arguments and then decide whether it goes to a full trial. And remember, what we're talking about here is pre-trial arguments. The male trying to have the case thrown out without a trial. The claimant saying this really needs to go to a full trial, where a judge can hear the evidence and then make a finding as to whether these allegations are true, are real, and if so, what sort of sanctions there should be.
Well, we'll watch with interest how this pans out. Stephen Barnett, thank you so much.
Pleasure. Thank you.